We are indeed. In fact, let's come on to the big one now, because you've hinted at this a few times, and uh, uh, and this is the fact that Charles Cross wasn't his real name, and a big red flag for those who put him forward as a suspect is that he gave a false name to the police and gave a false name to the inquest. And in fact, his name was Charles Lechmere. So the fact that he gave a false name to both the police and at the inquest means that he must have had something to hide, vis-a-vis, he must have been the person who had murdered Mary Nichols. What what do you think of this?
At first, it sounds, again, like a lot of Lechmere red flags, it sounds very plausible. But again, when you start to scrape away at the surface, you start to question it and start to realise it probably wasn't as suspicious as what we are led to believe. In fact, he gave his legal name at the inquest that morning. The law states your legal name is the name you wish to be known by, and he gave the name Charles Alan Cross, so he wished to be known as Charles Alan Cross. So Charles Alan Cross is his legal name. Um, and he also gave his home address and his work address. So I'm not really quite sure how that is the work of a criminal mastermind if he was trying to hide his identity or divert suspicion, because at the end of the day, Misen was sitting with him in the inquest that morning and he could identify him. He knew what he looked like. So if the police needed to question him again and they had a little ride out to Dufton Street and knocked on the door and said, "Are you Charles Cross?" And he went, "No, I'm Charles Lechmere," I think they would have gone, "Well, you look like the Charles Cross we need to speak to." So I don't think he would have gotten away with it. And numerous times, too many to count, again, I've asked how and why. How and why was given Charles Alan Cross uh, amount of subterfuge? Because to me, it wasn't. And that's never been answered. And that's the bigger picture here. It's not the fact that he gave a false name or not his real name. Um, why? How did given Charles Alan Cross make him the serial killer and give him an advantage as a serial killer? And nobody can answer that. Nobody ever has, that I'm aware, has answered that question. And that's important to me because, in other words, they're making up these red flags, but they've got no meat on the bone, so to speak. They've got no reason why the red flags. They just say they are, and that seems to be a recurring theme through the Lechmere theory, that we are expected just to accept that these red flags are red flags without questioning the validity of them. And I know we keep getting mentioned true name, real name, and as far as I'm aware, there's no statute in the UK for what a real or a true name is, just legal name. And Charles Cross gave his legal name. So to me, I honestly think it's a complete red herring. And jokingly, I keep saying he could have called himself Mickey Mouse and it wouldn't have made any difference whatsoever because they knew what he looked like and they knew where he worked and they knew where he lived. So if they wanted to question him further, you know, it wouldn't have been Sherlock Holmes that had to call upon to go and find him, would it? I think anybody could have managed to do that.
And of course, he did have. Uh, he uses the name Charles Cross, but he did have a legitimate cause to use the name Charles Cross, because his stepfather was named Cross.